3.23 Interview with a film director, Part 1.
What were you hoping to do by making the film Trashed?
Well, I think the role of the film for me was to raise awareness on the topic and get it into the press so that people could start having a meaningful conversation about waste, which is not a particularly attractive subject, let's say.
How many countries did you film in?
We ended up actually filming in 11 countries, but the stories that I've chosen are universal, and obviously I spoke to people in communities in more countries than we actually filmed in, but the stories are certainly not isolated. They're repeated around the world, sadly, wherever you kind of want to pick, actually.
How did you persuade Jeremy Irons to get involved in the film?
I had worked with Jeremy some years ago on a different film, and I was generally aware that he doesn't like waste either. He will, wear his jumpers until they're worn out. He'll keep his cars until they're falling apart. He'll repair everything. So he's always seen, the value in reusing things. It's just something natural to him as well. So he just felt like a natural first approach, and so I sent him the treatment, and amazingly he loved it.
It's of wood. But in the 50 years since then, things have changed. The treasure I used to find in the sand has been replaced by trash.
How did you get Vangelis to write the soundtrack?
Well, Jeremy and Vangelis have been friends for years, so Jeremy sent him the rough cut of the film, and Vangelis absolutely loved it. He is also a committed environmentalist, so he's always been aware. He was aware because he'd worked with Cousteau, sort of various people, he was aware of issues for the seas and so on. But generally, again, he was very shocked by the film and really wanted to get involved, so.
What research did you do before you started making the film?
I spent about a year talking to communities, talking to experts, obviously reading an awful lot, and just ingesting it all, because obviously, again, it's such an enormous topic to take on.
3.24 Interview with a film director, Part 2.
Rubbish isn't very attractive visually. Was that a problem for you as a filmmaker?
Yes and no. Strangely enough, obviously I had a wonderful DOP, director of photography, so he can pretty much make anything look beautiful, I think. But I wanted to choose, as I've said earlier, I did a lot of research, and so sadly these things were repeatable and in every country around the world. So I wanted to choose beautiful places wherever possible that have been ruined, unfortunately, by man-made rubbish. So the ancient port of Saida in Lebanon, the fact that you've got this huge mountain of waste, which was formerly a flat, sandy beach.
What was a sandy beach has been replaced by a trash mountain, well over 40 meters in height.
Documentaries about how we're destroying the planet can be very depressing. Was that also a challenge for you?
A huge challenge, yes. I would have preferred to make a much more cheerful documentary than I think Trash is. I think it has got hope. I think because we were very much aware that we wanted to offer solutions at the end of it. But the subject is not a cheerful subject. I could have gone further, I think, with it, but I didn't want to, because actually, you could sort of end up feeling like you just want to go and shoot yourself, which is not what I wanted. I wanted to feel that, people feel that they can make a difference to this topic.
In the film, you focus on air pollution, land pollution and water pollution. Which do you think is the most worrying?
If I had to pick one, which I would be reluctant to do, it would be water, without a doubt. I think that what has happened to all of the oceans and beaches actually as well in the world in the last 30 years is astonishing in the scale and the speed. You know, there are certain places in the world that, you know, you have to dig down on a beach over a foot before you will find sand that doesn't have plastic in it. Unfortunately, what's happened with the way that soft plastic degrades in water is that the pieces become so fragmented that they're the same size as the zooplankton, which obviously is in the food chain.
3.25 Interview with a film director, Part 3.
Who do you think is mostly to blame for the problems we have with waste?
I tried very hard actually not to blame one person or things in the film, actually quite deliberately, because I think in a way it lets us off the hook, and it also I think we all need to work on the problem together, because it's too complicated to blame one person or one thing or one act, or you know, I think it's multifaceted, unfortunately.
As well as using anaerobic...
Your film finishes on an optimistic note, with the example of San Francisco's zero waste policy. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Well, I actually, in the film, ended up using San Francisco as the example, because I wanted to show that zero waste could be achieved on a big scale.
Tell me about...
When you go and stay in San Francisco in your hotel room, you'll have 4 different bins, and you'll have signs on the wall of what goes into each bin. So it's very, very easy to recycle, and I think that's a huge part of what we should be doing.
Has the film changed your own habits regarding waste?
I don't think the film has particularly changed my own habits dramatically, because I've always been thrifty by nature, because I was lucky enough to spend a lot of time with my grandparents when I was growing up, and the post-war sort of philosophy of never wasting anything, it just, you know, it was instilled in me. I ride the same bicycle that I've had since I was 15 years old, and I've over the years obviously had it repaired and repaired, but I take tremendous pride in the fact that I've always ridden the same bike, and you know, I have lovely memories of it, so, and with it. So I think we need a sort of slight change of mindset to make things cool the longer you have them, in a way, than actually this perpetual thing of buying new things for the sake of it.
3.26 Interview with a film director, looking at language. 1.
We ended up actually filming in 11 countries.
2.
But the stories that I've chosen are universal, and obviously I spoke to people in communities in more countries than we actually filmed in.
3.
And so I sent him the treatment, and amazingly he loved it.
4.
But generally, again, he was very shocked by the film and really wanted to get involved.
5.
Yes and no. Strangely enough, obviously I had a wonderful DOP, director of photography, so he can pretty much make anything look beautiful.
6.
I did a lot of research, and so sadly these things were repeatable and in every country around the world.
7.
Unfortunately, what's happened with the way that soft plastic degrades in water is that the pieces become so fragmented.
3.27 On the street. Sally. How much recycling do people in your country do?
I don't think we do enough. I think we could do a little bit more. I'm not wonderful myself, but we try and do a little bit of recycling.
How responsible are you personally?
Well, we'd probably do about 30% we recycle.
What do you think the government or individuals could do to make people recycle more?
Well, they could give you all these boxes and bins and things at home to help you recycle. The Germans seem to do it quite well.
Joe. How much recycling do people in your country do?
I think people are quite good at recycling. I think now that the waste companies come and collect recycling from the houses, people haven't really got an excuse not to recycle anymore.
How responsible are you personally?
I recycle as much as I can.
What do you think the government or individuals could do to make people recycle more?
Well, maybe they could offer a financial incentive for recycling, or maybe for producing less rubbish that can't be recycled.
Jill. How much recycling do people in your country do?
I think that recycling is getting better in this country. I think that we still have a long ways to go. I think it's still done largely in pockets and not necessarily nationwide as much as it could be.
How responsible are you personally?
Actually, in the town where I live, we have a very strong recycling program, and so I participate in filling it up with cans and bottles and newspapers and all kinds of stuff, and they come and get it every other week, so easy to do. Mm-hmm.
What do you think the government or individuals could do to make people recycle more?
Oh, well, incentives always work. Besides above and beyond monetary incentives, just incentives to, promote benefits to the environment.
Pranjal. How much recycling do people in your country do?
I don't think people in the U.S. recycle enough. I think we should recycle more, and I'm even guilty of not recycling enough, but I don't think we recycle enough.
How responsible are you personally?
Personally, I'm not really that responsible in cycling. I'll be honest, I don't really recycle that often, but if I do get the opportunity to recycle, I will.
What do you think the government or individuals could do to make people recycle more?
Well, I think it's important for individuals to realize that even the smallest difference makes a big difference, and so if everyone can just get in that mindset that the smallest change they can make in their lives makes a big difference, I think that will in fact make a big difference.
3.28 Colloquial English Phrases. 1.
Well, maybe they could offer a financial incentive for recycling.
2.
I think that we still have a long ways to go.
3.
Besides above and beyond monetary incentives, just incentives to, promote benefits to the environment.
4.
Filling it up with cans and bottles and newspapers and all kinds of stuff.
5.
So if everyone can just get in that mindset that the smallest change they can make in their lives makes a big difference.